and welcome to part 4 of this beginner's guide series on the Stylophone Gen R-8.
In this video we're going to be taking a look at the sequencer and the dip switches.
Now let's look at the sequencer. We looked at the sequencer briefly earlier as we explained the mod rest and glide tie keys. Let's explore the other parameters. The CV output allows the sequencer to control or sequence an external source. If you use this in combination with the gate output, you can create rests and ties on an external Euro rack. This could be used to create pauses in the sequence in random, non-musical ways, or keep external equipment in time with the sequencer. Let's see this in action. Gate out allows the Gen R-8 to tell external equipment that a note has been pressed. As we just explained in the previous demo, this can be useful when sequencing another synthesizer. However, the gate also has other uses. It can be used to open and close a filter in time with the Gen R-8 sequencer, and to trigger the envelope as another synth in time with the Gen R-8 sequencer. Let's see these in action. Speed controls how quickly the sequencer goes, i.e. sequencer tempo. Pattern allows for storing 8 different patterns of notes in the memory of the Gen R-8. To do this, simply select a number, press record, and play. To erase a pattern, simply select the number it is on and press record. Let's look at the play stop button. This button starts and stops sequence playback. Having the button selected also allows you to switch between stored patterns on the fly. This means you can record extra long sequences and simply turn the knob to play them through as one. Sequences can be transposed simply by pressing a key on the keyboard as the sequence plays to transpose it to start on that note. The record button activates record mode on the sequencer. This automatically switches off when you have played 16 notes in, as this is the maximum number that can be stored. If you want to play fewer than 16 notes, simply press the record button a second time to stop recording, or if you want the sequence to play as soon as you've recorded it, press the play/stop button and it will also be stored in the memory. Drive adds distortion to the output, i.e. sound of the Gen R-8. Usually distortion removes some of the bottom end of a synth, but the Gen R-8 has an added JFET transistor boost stage, which keeps the bottom end intact. Let's look at the dip switches. Dip 1 allows the sequencer gate time to be adjusted between short and long. Switching the dip up makes the gate long, and the dip down makes it short. Sometimes, if you're using the Gen R-8 sequencer to control external equipment, if the sequence is fast, the gate on the Gen R-8 might not be able to register it on the dip down setting. In this case, the dip up setting is useful because of its longer gate time. A longer gate time is useful when running the sequencer at higher speeds because it allows the envelope to do a full cycle. and details such as sustain won't be missed from the sound. A shorter gate time, i.e. dip 1 down, is good for slower tempi and sequences. Dip 2 is known as the sequencer transpose reset. When dip 2 is down and you press a key as the sequence plays to transpose it, it will be delayed by 1 note in the sequence. Let's hear this in action. When dip 2 is up, the sequence will go back to its beginning note as it is transposed. This is different to the default transposition feature, which transposes notes beginning on whichever note in the sequence it was on as the key was pressed. When dip 3 is up, this switches off the Gen R-8 sound on its keyboard to enable its use as a MIDI controller on a DAW in a computer, for example, to play violin notes. Using the included 3.5mm MIDI adapter and your own MIDI cable, plug the MIDI adapter into the MIDI out socket and connect the MIDI cable into the interface. Lastly, connect the cables together. However, the Gen R-8 sound will come through if patched up to external equipment. This external equipment, depending on what it is and how it's used, can take on the violin or chosen MIDI sound and/or the Gen R-8 sound. When dip 3 is down, the Gen R-8 works normally without the need to connect to external equipment to be heard, but can also be used as a MIDI controller at the same time to play a violin or chosen MIDI sound. Dip 4 is known as the MIDI programming dip switch. When it is down, the Gen R-8 acts as normal. When it is up, it's in MIDI program mode. In this mode, you can select the MIDI channel number, whether OMNI mode is on or off, and select whether the Gen R-8 is in master or slave mode. The MIDI channel number on the other instrument or DAW has to match that of the Gen R-8 to allow control. Here's how to do it. First, switch dip 4 up. Then, select a MIDI channel from the first 16 keys of the Gen R-8. In this case, we're going to choose channel 1. Then, switch down dip 4 to confirm this chosen MIDI channel. Lastly, the full MIDI channel should appear across the keys. Now let's talk about OMNI. OMNI mode allows the Gen R-8 to receive or transmit MIDI across all 16 channels at once. Using this with a compatible instrument or DAW allows you to make a big cacophony while pressing only one key. To switch this on, have dip switch 4 up and press key 25. This activates OMNI. Then switch dip switch 4 down to confirm. Let's move on to master slave mode. Master mode means that the Gen R-8 transmits its tempo to a DAW or any MIDI equipped device. This allows the Gen R-8 to start, stop, and control the tempo of an external sequencer. To enable master mode, switch dip 4 up, then press key 37, then switch dip 4 down to confirm. Slave mode means that the Gen R-8 receives MIDI tempo from an external device or DAW. This allows an external sequencer, drum machine or DAW to start, stop and control the tempo of the Gen R-8 sequencer. To enable slave mode, switch dip 4 up, then press key 36, then switch dip 4 down to confirm. Dip 5 is known as the first or last note priority. Up means that you need to release the first note before you can trigger a second. Down means you can hold down one note and play another. However, as soon as you hold down the second note, the first cuts off. But as soon as you release the second note, the first is re-triggered. This is fun for a little guitar-like shredding sound. Dip 6 is known as legato on, off. Up is legato off. This means that the attack section on the envelope is re-triggered with each note played, even when notes are slid between. We can demonstrate this by using the glide function. Down is legato on. This means that the attack section on the envelope is only triggered on the first note, with all subsequent notes playing smoothly. Thanks so much for watching this video on the Beginner's Guide series on the Stylophone Gen R-8. We really hope you've been enjoying it and found it useful. If you did, please hit the thumbs up button and consider subscribing to my channel if you're new. And why not check out Lee Kemp's channel for other amazing stylophone tutorials. And click here to watch another video in the Stylophone Gen R-8 series.